All right, welcome back to the PCC podcast. Today, we are going to be going through a very controversial topic, we'll say. And this might ruffle some feathers and it might not be a welcome message to everyone. And I think the biggest thing here is that I'm definitely going to speak my mind on this episode because one thing I heard recently that kind of just I heard in passing, but actually it really did stick with me. And it's really important that, I am preaching a message of health, of prioritizing yourself. And that message is not going to be heard by everyone the same way every single time. And so, I might not be for everyone right now, and that's okay. But even if something isn't hitting the right way or doesn't make sense to you, I want you to bookmark what we're talking about today. Maybe bookmark this episode, save it for later, listen to it again in the future for another time in your life where you might really need it. Because at the end of the day, sometimes just what we need is information at the appropriate time. And so this might be the perfect time to hear this for someone, but also not the perfect time for someone else. So keep this message in mind if you're ever struggling with prioritizing yourself and your health. And the inspiration for this episode really is just kind of a recurring theme in my life, honestly. And ultimately a reminder to myself at the end of the day, because this is something that I consistently struggle with. So I will be preaching this to myself just as much as I am preaching it to you and the woman that needs to hear it. But it's also something that our clients definitely tend to struggle with in their journey. So the topic today is prioritizing your health being selfless, not selfish. And for some people, that phrase in and of itself might be a no brainer. And for other people, they might not really know what I mean by that. And so when I say prioritizing your health, that means taking time out of your day to put your needs on a priority list. So whether that's cooking meals for yourself, it's making the time for the gym, it's saying no to certain things, it's potentially, right? Potentially inconveniencing others or putting your needs on a priority list that typically is filled with everyone else's needs and priorities. So, this is why a lot of high achieving women specifically feel a lot of guilt around self care. Why? Because they feel like they are high achieving because they've gotten to where they are, because they have put everyone else first, or because they have just basically been a martyr for every season of their life, whether it was school as a child, growing up into adulthood, building their career, building their families. A lot of high achieving women just have been conditioned to really just live for others. And it's a big part of culture, society, biology that I'm going to get into. But today, hopefully, we're going to just break that down, put a couple dents in it, and give you some more reasons to prioritize yourself and give yourself the time and energy that you deserve. Right. And so let's talk about first, like, why do we feel like prioritizing our health and our self is selfish? And this can come from biological programming. So, literally, as women, we are wired mentally from like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years to be nurturing and to have a tendency or a propensity towards caretaking, right? And so we are more likely to want to take care of others. Not just to feel like you have to, but like literally to want to. And obviously, this one's a big given when it comes to your kids, right? You'll have a bond with your child that no man could ever truly understand because you grew that child from your womb. But we're even talking about just the nature of women in general. This can show up in friendships. This can show up in work relationships. This can show up in a career setting. This can show up in so many places, in a relationship with a significant other, all of the above. Okay. But it doesn't really end there, right? It's on top of that, it's societal conditioning that puts our productivity and others' needs over our own. And it's I want to be very clear. It's not necessarily coming from a place that is malicious. Like the narrative nowadays is more pro women than it has ever been, right? And it's really empowering. It's like boss babes and women can make their own money and be the head of the household or can be the breadwinner. That's the word I was looking for. Can be the breadwinner. She can do it all. She's superwoman. She's super mom. And while that is empowering, to some, it can also add pressure or expectation that that is now the norm or that is what we should strive for. We should be able to just do it all and not bat an eye. And so many women, we carry so much. We're carrying all of that. And then on top of that, typically emotional baggage that we're holding from others because we like to hold space for others, care for others, nurture others. On top of that, we are typically also doing a lot of invisible labor. So, like, our mind is constantly running, right? We're constantly thinking, so when's this person's appointment for that, or my kid's appointment for that, or my appointment for this? And how do I organize X, Y, and Z on the schedule? And oh, by the way, like, when do we need to get groceries for this? And oh, by the way, like, the sheets haven't been washed in 4 weeks. Like, we should probably do that. But also, I've got this Pilates class that I want to go to, right? And so it just gets, you know, muted by all the noise. And then a lot of times I also hear common phrases of rationalizing not putting ourselves as a priority when it comes to our time, our energy, or our money, right? Like, so whether we want to join a workout class, we want to buy healthier foods, or clients who want to work with us as a one-on-one coach, a lot of women will honestly talk themselves out of that before even having a conversation with their spouse, who honestly is pretty supportive most of the time and is just thinking to themselves, I can't justify spending that kind of time, that kind of money, that kind of energy on myself when I just don't have enough of it, to go around, or feeling like, you know what, I should just be grateful for the life that I have. Maybe this is all good enough. And we've been programmed for kind of like two polar opposites, like super mom, super woman, do it all. But at the same time, settle for what you have. You can't ask for anything more. How hypocritical is that? That we have been conditioned to basically be in this dichotomy that those two things cannot coexist, right? If you're going to be super mom and super woman and do it all, you need to be poured into. So, a couple of examples of how feeling selfish to prioritize yourself and your health can show up with your health and your fitness. So, simple ways. Skipping workouts, just literally being like, you know what? There's other things that could come first right now, whether it's the laundry, the dishes, taking care of something else, doing more work. I'm just going to skip my workout today. Or not prepping your meals, not cooking healthy, not taking the time to prioritize your nutrition can just be because, well, the family's needs come first. I have to fuel, sorry, words are hard, feed the family. And so, my daughter's picky, my son's picky, my husband's picky. So I just can't make that happen and make my goals happen at the same time. Right. And I think this guilt is like not wanting to inconvenience others. And a lot of times women just don't have the knowledge to know that it's possible to make enjoyable food that is healthy. And so then it's just like, I'm not even going to go through the effort of trying to figure out my own stuff, right? Putting ourselves on the back burner that way. And then just like staying in this burnout state of life. And trust me, like I said, this whole episode is a reminder to myself, staying in burnout, right? Not doing the things that your future self would thank you for. Even literally just today, it's been rainy, it's been gloomy. I have kind of been like sluggish all day, and I had to force myself to get on my walking pad and just get my steps in because that's what my future self would thank me for. But it took literally everything in me to do that. I feel great now, though. That's why I'm recording this. And so, what happens when we stop prioritizing our health, or when we just continually don't prioritize our health and ourself day after day, week after week, is there are real costs that go beyond body fat. Okay. So, what this actually steals from us is not just our physique and looking exactly the way that we want to look in the mirror, which, by the way, If that was the only thing that you wanted to work towards and your energy and everything else was great, that's still a valid goal. Even if it's just 5 or 10 pounds, whoever told you that it has to be worse in order for you to want to fix it is off their rocker, literally. Anyways, what burnout actually steals, what not prioritizing your health actually steals from you is your energy, your patience, your mood, your libido, your self-esteem, most importantly, self-esteem and self-worth. Okay, because when you neglect yourself, when you stop keeping promises that you make to yourself, even vague promises like I want to be healthier or I want to work out more, if we don't act in that manner after speaking that into existence, we are breaking promises that we made with ourselves, and it erodes self-trust. I say erodes very, very intentionally, because if you think about water eroding rock on a mountain, it happens like that. It's slow. It's so painfully slow that you don't notice it, because in the moment it feels like the right thing to do. It feels okay to do. You're in the habit of it. But eventually that rock gets worn down and worn down and worn down. And it shows up everywhere. Okay. If you neglect making that time, that space, that energy for yourself, you will see it in your energy levels. You'll see it in how you snap at others versus how you are patient with others. You'll see it in brain fog, which, if you've been following my hormonal healing journey at all, you'll know that that's been an on and off struggle for me. And to not feel like I can be confident that I'm going to have my train of thought at any given moment is so debilitating. You will also probably start to hide from intimacy and have no libido, or even if you do, you won't even engage because you are ashamed of yourself or your body. And then again, confidence and self esteem, right? If you are consistently breaking promises that you make to yourself, then you are going to lose self trust. You are going to lose self worth. And at the end of the day, it's a very vicious cycle where you actually continue to lose belief in the fact that you can change and that you can get out of this and that things can get better, the more and the more and the more and the more that you break those promises to yourself. And so the real cost is digging yourself deeper and deeper and deeper into a hole. And it's not just you. Your depletion literally affects everyone around you. And I've noticed, like in my own journey, when I've gotten to those low points, I've seen, and I'm so self aware, I'm incredibly self aware to a point of overthinking. And it's honestly like I could be a little bit less self aware, to be honest. But when I see myself being negative, I get really frustrated with myself because I see myself dragging the people that I love down with my negativity, being a negative Nelly. They're worrying about me. And it's really frustrating. And so if you do not have that self-awareness and you're just, in the dumps, your health is in the dumps, you're not prioritizing yourself or your health, and you feel like making that time, that energy is selfish, I can tell you that others will notice and they will worry about you. And ultimately, it's really frustrating because then you continue to run on empty, you continue to run on burnout, and you continue to rationalize that maybe this is as good as it gets because you forget what optimal energy, good health actually feels like. So, what do we do? How do we change this? What we need to do is we need to focus on reframing self care not as a selfish act, but as a selfless act, a leadership decision, because it is. And I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. Okay, so prioritizing your health in any shape or form, right? It doesn't have to be, spending a bunch of money on supplements or doing anything crazy. It literally can just be how you model your behavior for your family, for your spouse, your partner, your team at work, your clients, if you have those, your kids, especially. One example, we host monthly and quarterly reviews with all of our team members here at PCC to not only give them feedback on their performance, but actually get feedback on our performance as leaders. And one of my employees literally told me that one of her deal breakers, like basically a deal breaker, is if this were to continue or if this were to happen, then I can't work here anymore. And we allow our employees to tell us that because we want to foster a productive working environment. And usually our deal breakers are in alignment. And she told me that one of her deal breakers, she was like, it's not obviously happening right now, but if you were to ever to stop walking the walk, to stop prioritizing yourself, to stop pursuing your own optimal hormonal health, it would be a deal breaker for me because I don't want to work for someone who isn't taking care of themselves. And, a lot of people feel that way, and maybe they can't put their finger on it, but a lot of people feel that way. And that is why a lot of times our relationships can be affected when we're not taking care of ourselves. In addition, when we don't take care of ourselves, we tend to project whatever our insecurities are onto others, and it can cause a lot of weird tensions in relationships. Now, it also makes you a better friend and partner because you have more energy, you have more mental clarity, you have more confidence, you have more capacity. Because when you keep promises that you make to yourself, like working out, like eating healthy, what those habits do is they give you back energy. And when you have more energy, you can handle more. And that's where you can actually become the super mom or the one that can do it all because you are taking care of yourself to the highest level. And most importantly, the biggest ROI when it comes to your self care and how you prioritize yourself is your belief in yourself and how that transfers not just into your own life, but to everyone else around you, especially for moms. I have plenty of clients that have young daughters, even young sons too, but a lot of their motivation rides in having a daughter, right? Because we grew up with so much bullshit and we as the millennial generation, yeah, we want to try to alleviate that on our next gen, right? And so when our daughters see us and they say, Mom, like you really, took a situation that could have just been settled with, could have just been considered normal. You could have taught me subconsciously or consciously that that's okay to accept in life, in my relationships, all these things. But you took that situation and you changed it for the better and you took control of it and you gave yourself life back. And a lot of times, we are teaching our kids one thing or another, whether we realize it or not. So that's really important, is not only the belief that we have back in ourselves because we're keeping the promises that we make to ourselves, and then we're more dependable and more confident for everyone else around us, but also what it's teaching the other people in our life about what we do and don't tolerate. And it really does emulate in the quality of life that we live. And so, just as a reminder, this does not require hours in a day. It doesn't even require 1 hour a day to prioritize yourself. And you need to, if you're struggling with this, you really need to let go of the idea that it's going to be this unfeasible amount of time, because micro habits, the smallest habits, can make huge changes. And in fact, the only way that you can succeed is to start small. And I know that and I believe that because, especially for women who are struggling with self esteem, self care, the only way you can build momentum is by one small habit at a time and moving forward little by little from there, because you have to build little bits of trust at a time in yourself. You can't just jump from 0 to 100. So just remember, it doesn't take hours. Your health is not an expense. It's the foundation for literally the rest of your life, your kids' lives, your career, and how the standard by which you live your life and the quality of life that you live. And it is not something that is selfish. It is selfless, and it benefits everyone around you. Every single client that has made a transformation with us has said, my husband noticed he likes me so much better now, not because of my weight or my body, but because of how I act. So many of our clients have told us that their kids have developed a healthier relationship with food because of how they prioritize themselves. And they did go through the discomfort of making changes, right, to the dinner menu for the family, or the schedule, or where you needed help to make sure that you could get a workout in without interruptions, right? It's not effortless, but it is selfless. So, my challenge to you is, if you're listening to this, you made it all the way through, clearly something must have landed. Name one way that you're going to prioritize your health this week. just one small thing, one micro habit, and send it to me in an Instagram message. I'll leave my handle below, but I really love to hear from you guys who do listen to the podcast. So send it to me in an Instagram message and let's get prioritizing. Now, our next episode is going to give you some more tactics for how to do things like that. It's going to be all about how to eat for hormonal balance and fat loss without cutting out calories. So definitely make sure that you're subscribed to the PCC podcast. We release new episodes every Monday. And definitely, if you know another high achiever woman who needs this reframe, maybe you listen to this and you were like, I know this, but so-and-so doesn't, send it to her. Or if you had a lot of really big breakthroughs and takeaways listening to this, send it to someone else who's been struggling in the same boat that you have, because this is free. You can send it to anyone, and we can help make women's lives better and higher quality and optimal in their health just through spreading this podcast. So thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you back here next week.